Howdy, folks. Craig Burton here with another installment of Clean Shot, the show that delivers the latest news and reviews that today's haulers need to know. Alongside me, as always, is Skinny, who's literally packing his bags for the Intergalactic Aerospace Expo as I speak. What's that? The show started, and here you are rooting around our luggage. Would you rather double check that we got all our gear? I'll leave that in your capable hands. Just threw me to see you doing it during the show. Sorry, figured I'd second get through it all before you invited me on. I just wanted to triple check even that we had the backup TX3 adapter in here before I forgot. Anything else you need to knock out before we get started? No, I'm good to go. For the IAE or this show? Both. Fantastic. Before me is the man who needs no introduction but insists that I still do one. His resume includes many things, being Clean Shot's producer, a certified gearhead, and the self-proclaimed king of components. How you doing, Skinny? Excited for the IAE? Absolutely, but can you hold on a sec? I just need to double check. I'm kidding. Well, aren't you full of piss and vinegar today? How can you not be? It's IAE season. If you can't already tell, we're keeping this one a little looser than normal, because Skinny and I are supposed to catch a transport right after this show. And actually, we're a little behind schedule. Whole crew got hit with a bad case of TRV last week, which thankfully seemed to be the past of the worst now. Ate my first good meal in a long time last night, and actually managed to keep it down. Oh, yeah, I was worried for a hot minute that we might need to skip the show altogether. Yeah, I'd be pretty devastated if we had to miss this year. As you can imagine, we're both very excited for the show, and you should be too, as we have a whole E full of content planned, with Skinny going above and beyond to line up some outstanding guests. He even got a sneak peek at, careful now, some of the biggest surprises manufacturers have in store. Did you really think I was going to let something slip there? A good producer takes nothing for granted. That's why I had to triple check that the extra TX3 adapter was packed. Well, as thrilling as this conversation is, how about we get to the issue at hand? Let's do it. That's right. It's time for our annual IAE Predictions segment, where Skinny and I hone our powers of prognostication around this year's event. Skinny, care to get us started? Well, I'm going to go bold with my first one here. I predict that the attendance at the satellite IAE expos will exceed the attendance at the main expo in Kiel. Interesting. Did not see a prediction like this coming from you. Figured most of yours would be something like a component manufacturer announcing a new generation of heat distribution coils to improve cooler performance. To be honest, making predictions was harder this year because we've already been scooped to some of the big reveals coming. Had the same issue myself. I understand wanting to know what's coming, but half the fun of the show, for me, is being there for the announcements. It's like opening your Lumalia presents early. Ruins the whole damn thing. But anyway, you really think people are going to skip Kiel this year and favor the other shows? Yeah, attendance numbers have been trending in this direction for several years now. More and more, people have realized that it's a huge pain to get into Kiel. There's already so much traffic, and somehow the express lanes created to expedite the official expo ships have only made things worse for everyone else. That's right. You remember how long we waited to make the jump into Kiel last year? Long enough for me to take 2 naps. Plus, people have realized that the local expos, like the one in Stanton, are just as fun and full of spectacle as the main event. And don't get me started about the security issues. Skinny's right about this. Yeah, good call. Seems like every year I'm hearing more and more stories about criminals targeting ships traveling to and from Kiel. So that's another headache to factor into your travel plans. Add all that up and throw in the rising cost of hotels, and well, I think more people will avoid the main event in favor of the satellite expos. Solid prediction. Moving on to my first one, I'm going to predict that Silas Kroner is going to make an appearance on the show floor on a day when Consolidated Outland isn't featured. Instead of being there for day 6, oh, I think he'll be there too. That man just can't help himself. For extra bragging rights, you want to predict what day he'll show up? That's tough, but my guess would be one of the first few days. They'll create more buzz around Consolidated's Day 6 appearance and shift the narrative away from all the negative press that the company got recently following the departure of several top executives. Those leaked comms from Silas sure were something. If you ever spoke to me like that, I'd quit too, and give you more than just a piece of my mind while heading out the door. Yeah, not a good look for Silas, which is why I believe he has some kind of antics planned for IAE. What's next on your prediction list, Skinny? Okay, how about this? I predict that Drake will not be allowed to be the main sponsor after this year. And why is that? The way I understand it, the IAE Board of Directors sets rules and standards that the sponsor must adhere to so they don't hurt the image or integrity of the event. Truth, and it also extends to other manufacturers as well. Exactly. And Drake's instinct is to push buttons and go against the grain. Sources have told me that Drake's been frustrated with the IAE board for months and had to scrap some of their biggest ideas and plans for the event. But I don't know if they can help themselves. I'm guessing that they have something up their sleeves for this year's expo that's going to anger the board and get them banned from being a main sponsor going forward. I get your point, but I'll take the other side of that bet any day. I'm not surprised that Drake's been butting heads with the IAE, but they're good at one thing. It's knowing how to artfully bend the rules into their favor. And they've tried, but even getting the theme and slogans for this year's event approved turned into a huge fight that annoyed some folks at Drake. From what I hear, some execs already believe being the main sponsor is way more trouble than it's worth. So why do something unexpected? Or better yet, why not do something unexpected? It just doesn't matter either way to them. If they don't care about being the main sponsor again, then a band doesn't matter, and they could generate a ton of publicity out of it while they're still the main sponsor this year. I think sponsoring the event is part of a long game for them. If anything, this is the year they sit back, learn how it all works, and then figure out how to subvert future events. Well, another thing I'm factoring in is the backlash from their diehard fans. Spectrum is already filled with folks who think Drake are going soft, betraying the brand by becoming the main sponsors. There's a chance they've underestimated just how many people love what they do because it antagonizes other brands. Hard to play the underdog when you're literally sponsoring the biggest aerospace event of the year. Oh, come on, let's be honest here. Drake aren't some scrappy startup anymore. They're a major manufacturer that has smartly defined themselves by being what other brands aren't. Some of their fans may not like it, but doing this might convince more people to give their ships a shot. I don't know. It feels most like Drake thing they could do is become the official sponsor, anger the IAE, and justify it by saying something like, "What did you expect, Drake? Not to be Drake?" That's my prediction, and I'm sticking to it. We need to go to break here in a moment, but let me get one more prediction in before that. This one might ruffle some feathers, but here it is. I don't think Jax will be here this year. So you're not buying the rumors that this has all been an elaborate publicity stunt? I mean, I hope it's true. Because I love Jax and all the crazy things he does for the sake of testing ships, but I know a lot of folks on Spectrum who have ship shows and know each other, and I heard zilch from anyone about him. Same. If all this is a publicity stunt, then bravo to all involved for keeping it so locked down. Anyways, we need to take a quick break. After that, we'll do a special IAE related trouble zone that you don't want to miss if you're traveling to the main event or any of the expos. Trust me, that and more when Clean Shot returns. That was Clean Shot. Just posted up today, November 15th, 2022, on the, gosh, goodness, we're probably, 48 hours from IAE? This is going to be a little looser than usual. This took a little bit out of me doing two different characters. And yes, I know Skinny wasn't the best. I kind of just tried to put something together where they were from like the same dialect, same kind of world. He's a little more toned down, maybe ex-military or something. I have to put a little image in my head of each character I try to build, even if I have very little information to go on. But yeah. So I hope you appreciated this. If you haven't already, please subscribe. If you already have been a subscriber, thank you so much for your ongoing support. That's all I ask of you, is put honest comments down below that I can help build from. And when you appreciate something, it's always even better. And subscribe. That's all I ask. And if you want to reach out to me in private, RedJ, #0001 up on Discord. And I'm also on Reddit. If I didn't mention that before in a recent bit. Okay, so let's get into this. There's a few things I wanted to mention. Directly in here, there seems to be a loud and clear telegraph from the CIG team, which in most cases, this would be written by lore team. But in this case, I think this is another one of those hybrid things like yesterday's, where maybe some lore had some influences. And then, because they took the Clean Shot syndication show and they mixed it in, which is a lore-based thing. There was other Clean Shots in the past. And they mixed it in with IAE goodies mixed here. So I wouldn't be shocked if this was like a marketing, community team, lore team kind of sitting in a battle room, so to speak, in a boardroom and kind of ironing this out. Like, debating what would be the best ways to handle this. Just put it up on a meeting table and put this together. It seems like they're trying to telegraph to us that, first of all, Silas Kroner is going to try to do something big to draw attention away from the Consolidated Outlands management shakeup. And there is a rumored ship I'm only going to say the name of. I'm not going to say anything else about, called the MCV. And if you know where to look, on many different sources, you can probably find some of the rumors that are floating around about this possible future ship from Consolidated Outland. One of the new ships, I mean, we haven't seen much out of Kanyu since the Nomad. And the Nomad, to me, this is maybe a hot take, it may not be, depending on who you are, but I feel the Nomad doesn't really feel like it's a Consolidated Outland ship. It feels like it was supposed to be Tavaran or something else. Like when they were experimenting with making the Raelin, and some of the text that would go into that in the future, it seemed like they added it then. Because the Nomad is just kind of awkward to me. It floats, it doesn't have proper landing gears. You look at all the Mustangs, they have proper landing gears. You look at the Pioneer, it has massive landing systems and a 3D printer unfolding system, which, don't get me wrong, I love all those ships. I also like the Nomad's ideas. I just don't see it as a Consolidated Outland ship. So the interior is a little more Consolidated Outland, but the actual floating system, how it's rigged up, the only thing that really fits is that Silas Kroner loves thinking outside the box. He's like a tech magnate of like a couple different tech magnates we think of today into one, think outside the box type of person. Literally, the Nomad stores its goods on the outside of the ship, one of the first ships to do that in game. And because it does, it's able to carry a lot more than it would be able to if that was an enclosed structure, or they would have to elongate the ship and make it far bigger, more expensive to have an enclosed area. So it's a good example of that. It can also be used with ROCs and other kinds of vehicles. So if I take my opinions aside about whether I feel the style matches Consolidated Outland, it certainly fits the vision of the company as this outside the box, changing the game, like the Pioneer before it, like the Mustangs before them to a lesser extent, and the Nomad. I would see the MCV as a ship that is going to change the game in some type of realm that's usually not able to be done right now with what's available in the market. That's my guess. That's no secret knowledge. I'm not Navocati. I'm not anything special. But that's my guess. And that's all I'm going to have to say on that. I have always kept my nose clean on leaks. I've always kept my nose clean on these type of things. I will stick to rumors that are very widely circulated and only talk about them indirectly. Okay, so this article seems to be CIG sending a message to the players that there will be a Consolidated Outland ship, most likely, or at least we're thinking about it, and get excited. Build some hype about Consolidated Outland. At the minimum, I would expect some type of shenanigans during the Galactic Gear videos. During IAE, there's multiple lore videos that are posted by CIG. And they're official videos, and they have only a couple minutes to them. But over the years, they've gotten more and more complicated. In the final cards for this video, I'll include my Jax McCleary reviews from like 5 years ago. And talking about like the originals of Jax McCleary. Well, not his original video, but the ones where he started doing IAE and he just became a monster. He just did them like every day. Whatever event manufacturer, event space was up, he would cover. So I always look forward to them more than the sales floor back then. And then over time, the production value just got considerably better. But I noticed, I believe it was last year, there was not a video for every single day. There was like a video for every other day, which was disheartening, but the videos were bigger and they had stories and they had adventures, just like, well, what Galactic Gear is kind of hinting towards it's based on, and what Jax McCleary is based on. I'll leave it at that, which is great. So I would not be shocked if there's a video that has Silas Kroner being brought on board to kind of chat back and forth with the team and some kind of shenanigans happen, and maybe, just maybe, a new kind of ship is revealed. We had a Galactic Gear that presented the Hercules series as prominently in the video, and yet the Hercules was not able to be usable yet. So it was kind of a big slap in the face to a lot of people that were excited about the Herc that year. And that's why I'm kind of hedging my bets with a video, is that maybe they can hint that there's a new ship coming, maybe not even put it up as a concept sale, but certainly hint that something is in the works, and that, Silas is just starting the process of thinking through what his new genius ship would be. So that's just me extrapolating based on this lore, previous experience, etc. We'll see. And at the best, we may see a concept sale, or maybe even, I don't know about a straight to flyable, but anything is possible, of a new type of ship. If I was to guess, once again, speculation only, I would guess that Consolidated Outland could really use an industrial ship or a utility-based ship. And I'm just going to leave it at that. Now, in here also, we talked about Drake's kind of expansion into becoming a main event sponsor. And what they mean by that is literally like the name Drake will be plastered all over this event. So in real life, you go to a convention center or something, and a lot of events are sponsored by one major manufacturer, service renderer, etc. That's like big in that industry, or breaking into the industry. Could be a brand new company in some cases. That's another example we might see in the future for IAE, by the way. But right now, we have a very, very established company, Drake, that literally builds capital ships all the way down. They have a brand new ship this year that we're hearing wonderful things about. And we're also seeing the Cutlass coming from lure and established ship sales to flyable status, hopefully coming very, very soon. So we've got a lot of excitement out of Drake. And what do I mean by that? In the preview video for this event, we saw a brand new ship or something that looked nothing like nothing else we have, that may be a little smaller than you would expect, that's floating above the CEO of Drake's head, and he's gesturing up to it as the crowd's excited about it. So, what we have is the possibility of a brand new, small, maybe advanced starter ship, and I would suggest something that may even have variants based on where I think advanced starters are. There's a couple that we could really use right now, and I think that if you were building a ship that's a little smaller, the smart thing to do is to fill multiple different roles and gameplay loops that the players may be excited about, and in a company that's quote cheap end quote, like Drake. Put your pitchforks down. I'm not saying it in a bad way. I'm just saying, unlike Origin or unlike some alien replica, from a POA, you're not going to be able to get a reasonable price on those type of things. Whereas a company like Drake, a company like RSI, these kind of companies, you can produce a ship at a very reasonable cost and keep the price low. There's less luxury factor, there's less rarity factor. And in the case of a ship for somebody starting out, in the case of a ship for just a backer in general with a price point issue, that would be perfect. And I would add to that, if you're just looking for a second ship, it would be perfect for people with a referral. If you have, say, a Dragonfly referral or a Gray Cat from the old days, or oh my goodness, there's so many. How many? I think I have like 4 referrals right now that have just been sitting on ice for a long time. I think one of them became a Pisces for the $5 USD CCU, and I'll probably have one of them become this new Drake ship if it's something that interests me, especially if there's different variants where I can specialize into different things. That would be very interesting for a daily driver, something to screw around with once in a while as a second ship, and just having fun. I could see it for all sorts of use cases. And I think for returning players that just want to kind of experience, let's say, salvaging, it would be really cool to have a starter salvage ship, and that you don't have to go buy a whole Vulture just to take part, which is the larger Drake ship that's designed for salvaging. Started out as an idea of just a seat on top of a bunch of thrusters and salvage equipment and such, and it rapidly deployed into this giant monster that has like its own little processing thing that crushes the salvage down into units to sell, and it's quite big now and expensive. So I don't know, maybe not even an advanced starter, maybe just a starter. We haven't seen a new one of those in a long time. That category is pretty barren, and that would also keep it from pricing out the Cutlass. If it's above the Cutlass, it's going to give people a difficult position to be in where they can't upgrade. They're going to have to make that hard decision of, do I upgrade from the Cutlass to go to this, or vice versa. Whereas if you're sticking to the starter sizes and it's just a few dollars more than the usual, and it has this brand new gameplay loop, that may be something that would push people over the edge, going, hey, especially for a second ship. Once again, I go back to that mindset of, if you're just looking to have a ship to kind of shake things up once in a while, you have a favorite, this is your second, just to have fun with in a different way, is perfect. So yeah, something utilitarian, something that is, Drake comes to mind. So that's basically what I think they're hinting at a few times here as Drake shaking things up. Now, aside from ship talk, Drake being the main manufacturer of this event will rile up the feathers of the board of directors from IAE. If you picked up on my recent IAE history video, I think it's like Dusty Plains to Megacorps. There is a board of directors that runs the IAE, and the board is supposed to be as unbiased as possible. But over the years, that has changed quite a bit. in the Messer era, it went from unbiased and group of good feelings, good hearts being here for those reasons, to loyalist at all costs to the Messer regime. Then it went back to snapping back into the megacorps, eventually taking over from politics into this situation where the manufacturers are basically running the roost to a certain extent. And then, of course, the government on low has some pull, which is some of where this is all taking place. The mention of Kiel, by the way, is the main site, is actually really fascinating. Once again, check out my IAE history video if you really want to listen about specifically Kiel. I'm not going to go completely into that, but just understand the entire system around it becomes a traffic jam, even the jump points when it comes to IAE. That's why in the lore, at least, that's why the Stanton event exists. It's a satellite site that's smaller than Kiel. But in this discussion, where you're having the clean shot crew discuss about how the Kiel site may actually have less attendance than satellite sites like Stanton, and they directly cite Stanton as one of the more successful satellite events. So I think that's pretty cool. And not just because it's out of necessity, we only have one system, but also because, plain and simple, I'm comfortable in Stanton. Don't get me wrong. I think once 1 year, when finally all the systems are in, I will make the journey to Kiel. But if it is truly a traffic jam nightmare, as they describe, where I'm, what am I going to do? Sit there for 4 real world hours just trying to get into the system? Maybe I'll get on an NPC Genesis Starliner, just AFK it, maybe buy a ticket and just sit there, let my character deal with that, and then come back and hopefully I'm at the IAE. But I mean, I think that's going to be kind of an experience for players once. I hope they sort that out by that point and just be like, oh yeah, they fixed the traffic system. They got this next generation microtech system that tracks all the traffic and makes it more 90% more efficient. Or they got rid of the corruption with the fast lane stuff. So yeah, it's also the fast lane stuff's kind of like when you're at a roller coaster. And there's the fast pass where you can come back at a certain time, or if you're really VIP, you can do whatever. I don't know, I never had those fancy tickets, but everybody else, like us normal people, are in the long line. It's kind of like that, and that's a little unfair. So it would be interesting to see if like they just turn around and say we got rid of all the fast pass lanes and we kept it simple, and then we streamlined traffic, and now it's official that the Kiel's not such a pain to get in and out of during the IAE season, because that's really what it is. It's an event that's supposed to span over a long period of time and really is interesting. And the fact that it butts up against Luminalia is interesting. I think that was a coded message in this article from CIG, talking about when you open your presents too early and how it spoils things. Uh, I kind of took that on the nose. I think they're kind of hinting about some of the things. Craig Burton here is kind of speaking, I think, on behalf of some of their staff. We had Xylo actually post an article, post on Spectrum, that basically talked about people data mining the game, and about how he felt that it was kind of like that's to be expected to a certain extent, but it's still not fun. And if it goes beyond that, it's not appreciated. So I understand where he's coming from, and I think that's some of like the talking of you shouldn't really want to open your presents beforehand. It takes half the fun away of the event. But I do understand players that get kind of stymied or feel the excitement so much so that it kind of overwhelms them trying to wait, much like a kid waiting for Christmas. I know, many moons ago, I knew that feeling, and I gotta admit, even the IE hype is certainly a strong one. So I think that there's a middle ground here somewhere that I would strongly encourage to just, you know, enjoy the event. Try not to go too crazy with whatever you're trying to figure out, and it some of the fun to me is trying to look at the little tea leaf analysis of these little things that are actually public. That interests me far more, because it's very satisfying when I'm right, and it's very satisfying when we get it as a community. We figure out these things that are kind of dropped out here and there, and start connecting the dots. And even just, for example, talking about ships that are needed versus slots in the system, that's not just speculation. we have seen the developers multiple years talking about, oh, we feel that we need a small miner, a medium miner, and a large miner. So as a community, we can go back without any super secret stuff and literally just look and go, okay, well, what do we think that the mole is? The mole is probably a medium. Well, we have a capital miner because the Orion keeps growing, so there's probably going to be a large miner. And then this year, sure enough, there was a vote for the community to decide which brand a large miner was going to be, and the RSI won, which is a shame because I wanted Argo to win. But anyway, I guess I'm getting to the point now that I have overstayed my welcome. These are my commentaries are often what I like to call overtime. I kind of am less formal. I'm having more fun with it. And if I do have stuff that I talk with people about in Discord or below in the comments in different videos, I do cite those. Um, and I usually won't credit if they talk to me in private, I won't credit the person. If it's in public, I will. So if you ever feel like, hey, I don't want my message singled out, I can always just keep that straightforward as, hey, so I was talking with somebody and I heard this. But usually I like to give credit where credit is due because there's a lot of great ideas out there in the community. So anyway, I hope this kept your IAE hype a little bit up, and have a wonderful IAE. If I don't see you on the floor, fly safe.